You think this fight is about speed, but actually, it is about what kind of mistake you can't live with later. If both want the best outcome, why does one feel pushed while the other feels stalled? You've seen this happen. A decision starts clean, logical, even productive. Then 10 minutes later, one person wants direction, and the other reopens the entire question. You're looking at the same problem. You even agree on the goal. So why does it suddenly feel like one of you is wasting time and the other is about to miss something important? This is common between INTJs and INTPs, not because one cares more, but because they protect different things when uncertainty shows up. One protects progress, the other protects accuracy. And when pressure rises, both start reading the other as risk. This is where it starts to break. You're in a planning call. The goal is clear. INTJ starts narrowing. They want the strongest workable direction before momentum dies. INTP keeps widening. They notice one assumption that still doesn't fully hold, and 3 ways the conclusion could shift. It looks like caution versus action. It's not that simple. INTJ usually did think this through already, and they remember how drifting conversations waste energy. INTP is not trying to stall. They just can't ignore a gap once they see it. The emotional hit is small at first. INTJ feels the air leaving the room. INTP feels the room moving on too early. Same uncertainty, different alarm. And that's the first crack. But this gets worse. This is where irritation becomes visible. You suggest a deadline. INTJ hears, "Finally, now we can commit." INTP hears, "So we're locking in while key questions are still loose." INTJ starts cutting repetition. INTP starts rephrasing, because what they mean still hasn't landed. Here's the twist. What sounds efficient to INTJ can feel intellectually careless to INTP. What sounds thorough to INTP can feel like endless reopening to INTJ. They both think they are reducing risk. They both think the other is increasing it. So what happens next? INTJ gets shorter, more direct, less patient. INTP gets more precise, but also more detached, because pressure makes them defend the framework harder. Now it's not just the idea, it's trust. Which one are you? Have you experienced this? And now, it shifts. This is where the interruptions start meaning something. You're halfway through explaining, and they jump in. INTJ interrupts, because they think the pattern is already obvious, and they want to stop the loop. INTP interrupts because the summary skips a condition that could change the outcome. They partially understand each other. That's why this gets so frustrating. INTJ can see the missing variable, but may think it matters less than losing momentum. INTP can see the need to move, but may think the push is built on an unstable frame. That's the uncomfortable part. Neither feels irrational. Both feel misread. And once that happens, every interruption feels personal. But this is where it gets heavier. This is where the hidden emotional reaction shows up. Nobody says it directly. INTJ starts wondering if INTP can actually conclude anything when it matters. INTP starts wondering if INTJ is getting attached to closure more than truth. Read that again. The argument is now about judgment. INTJ may look calm, but under pressure they can become rigid, fast. They stop exploring out loud and push for the clearest executable path. INTP may look detached, but under pressure they can withdraw into analysis, then come back unexpectedly blunt when something still doesn't make sense. It feels like honesty, but it lands like attack, and this is where both feel exposed. Now we hit the breakdown. You're rereading the same notes, and the same disagreement comes back again. INTJ hears, "We are losing time and weakening the decision window." INTP hears, "We are about to build on unresolved flaws and regret it later." This is why the conflict gets so intense around long-term decisions, deadlines, and high investment. The more it matters, the less either side can casually let it go. INTJ feels responsible for making sure progress survives reality. INTP feels responsible for making sure the reasoning survives scrutiny. So be honest, is this really about one thinking too much and the other too little? No. It's about different definitions of responsibility, colliding under pressure. They're not fighting over time. They're protecting different regrets. INTJ wants to avoid the mistake of drifting until the opportunity dies. INTP wants to avoid the mistake of committing to a conclusion that collapses later. That's why this argument feels deeper than it sounds. It isn't just hurry up. It isn't just slow down. It's which mistake would be harder to live with afterward. And if neither adapts, that question becomes the whole relationship dynamic. Which one are you? Have you experienced this? And if neither adapts, it stops being a conversation problem and starts becoming a judgment problem. They're not wasting time or killing momentum. They're protecting different kinds of responsibility inside the same uncertainty. So what do you think is harder to live with, moving too soon or deciding too late? Drop your type and your answer in the comments, and subscribe if you want more painfully accurate MBTI dynamics.